when she was asked direct questions, she didn't answer them. So that's why that's what's left me with, okay, I'm not quite sure yet what her policies are and so on. So I'm going to dig a little more into her policies.
And you were satisfied with the answers that Donald Trump gave?
Well, I knew them already.
This is the major difference between President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. The American people are aware of what Donald Trump has done during his term. They know his policies with the economy and with the security of our country. The same can't be said for Kamala Harris, though. Although we know that the past 3.5 years have been very destructive to our economy, we also understand that President Joe Biden has not been mentally fit to lead the country in any way, shape, or form, which leads us to believe that Kamala Harris has been leading the country under this administration, as quiet as it's been kept. And yet we're still in the dark as to what they really plan on doing if voted into office again. Since the VP couldn't answer, well, maybe we could get something out of Tim Walz. So it all started with this affidavit that was said to be from an anonymous ABC News whistleblower. Now, apparently, the whole thing blew up online and it went viral as the document alleges close collaboration between the network and Kamala Harris's campaign, leading all the way up to the recent debate against Donald Trump. Translation, this may very well be proof that Kamala Harris rigged the debate. Concrete evidence. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman, he reshared viral screenshots of the affidavit and even tagged Disney CEO Bob Iger for answers. He said that he finds the allegations credible as written, particularly because the affidavit was reportedly made the day before the debate and it mentions details like Harris's smaller podium that only became public later. He stopped short of confirming the authenticity of the affidavit and its claims about the presidential debate. But he did say, though, that what was said there substantially matches what unfolded during the debate and that moderators keeping quiet about these claims makes him think about the negative inference to it. So the billionaire investor is urging Iger and Disney to investigate this matter. But more precisely, he said that our democracy depends on transparency, especially concerning events that could influence the outcome of a presidential election. So the whistleblower said in the affidavit, I have worked for ABC News for over 10 years in various technical and administrative positions. The alleged staffer who says they do not support Donald Trump claims they observed significant transformations in the nature of news reporting at the organization within that span, as well as a shift from unbiased reporting to a model influenced by external factors. They state the intent of the affidavit is solely to address concerns regarding perceived biases within news reporting within their employer's debate. And guys, before we get started, thank you so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to join us over in our Patreon community. I left a link for you guys in the description down below. You can get early access to videos and content that I can't post here. Now, just recently, guys, Atlas Intel gave Donald Trump a 99.9% chance of winning the election under the most recent national poll. Because guess what, guys? Americans care about the cost of living. Donald Trump's proven himself when it comes to the economy, and you're not going to see a single voter who would want to have prices go up on energy and food. And it's also why CNN is now panicking, as they don't have a clue as to what the Harris campaign will be able to do to recover from this.
Let's talk about, let's refocus on one big issue, because it's going to come back into the spotlight next week, which is the economy. We've got the Fed very likely looking to cut rates for the first time since early pandemic days. What does that mean for this point in the campaign? Because it's a funky place.
Yeah.
You've got potentially a good sign that Kamala Harris can talk about, kind of quote unquote late stage change, but you still have Donald Trump killing her when it comes to the economy. In that snap poll after the debate, he was up 20 points on the economy, even though the vast majority said she won the debate. I'm really curious what next week brings in terms of the conversation around the economy, because I will say,
how do you see it?
I just think the response I have gotten to why isn't she doing better in the economy, or why wasn't Biden doing better in the economy, that I've gotten from administration officials and from Democratic electeds, it has been unsatisfying to this point, which is they just haven't gotten our message. And at some point, I'm asking, where's the expiration date on that reasoning? Because at some point there has to be. But let's do this again next week.
And it is for this exact reason as to why they're trying to bait Donald Trump once again. They've got mainstream media pushing out the message that Kamala Harris won the debate, but it's not doing the job in the polls. It's escalated to David Plouffe of the Harris campaign posting this on X after Donald Trump declined a third debate. He says that the spirit animal of Donald Trump is the chicken, although he is also the same guy who wanted multiple debates against Harris. They just were not agreeing to any other network other than ABC News. Now, if she agrees to one on Fox, then maybe people would stop calling her the chicken. And you gotta wonder, how many people would Trump have to debate against if he agrees to another one on ABC? Maybe it's 5 people, 5v1. I'm guessing that they would probably have Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton as moderators next. I read a book a long time ago, and it basically said something that was really powerful and profound to me. And it said something along the lines of, look at your 5 closest friends, and typically your income is an average of your 5 closest friends. Now, with that being said, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, how do I find people who made way more than me so I could increase my chances of having a higher income? I mean, it only made sense, right? For less than a cup of coffee a day, for less than $1 a day, join a powerful network of people who are ready to change their lives for the better. And I will be putting a limit on this group, so get in while you can. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. So JD Vance, he said it would be a national scandal if the whistleblower claim is true that ABC News gave Vice President Kamala Harris a leg up in her debate against Donald Trump earlier this month. But more interesting is how the Ohio senator doubled down on his commitment in this upcoming debate with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, hosted by CBS, even if he thinks it won't be a fair showdown. For the vice presidential candidate, it's a matter of going anywhere and talking to everyone. And according to JD Vance, if that means that there's going to be a slightly biased debate, he doesn't care. That's the price of doing business. But let's be real for a second here, guys. There's no need to rely on that unverified affidavit. Anyone with eyes could see that last week's debate was clearly a partisan attempt to sabotage the public discourse. That was supposed to be a 90-minute exchange between the candidates turned into something else, with ABC moderators jumping into the fray and taking an active role as participants. We saw them issue 6 so-called fact checks against former President Donald Trump while allowing Vice President Kamala Harris to repeat debunked hoaxes, such as the lie that the former president was referring to neo-Nazis when he said that there were fine people on both sides of the Charlottesville controversy. I mean, let's not forget the first instance of a presidential debate fact check that happened 12 years ago when CNN's Candy Crowley intervened in the debate between former Governor Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama. Not only did her actions reveal a clear personal bias, but her attempt to correct the Republican nominee also displayed her profound ignorance of the issue at hand. It was simply her opinion, unsolicited and unhelpful. Now it's like we're seeing Crowley 2.0 with Muir and Davis, because in an ideal scenario, a neutral debate forum would offer fact-checking equally to both candidates, not just one. For instance, ABC News could have challenged Kamala Harris on her Charlottesville claim by pointing out that Donald Trump's transcript made it very clear that he was referring only to those who opposed to tearing down historic statues as fine people. But ABC wasn't exactly impartial, as we saw. Like her CNN predecessor, ABC's Lindsay Davis fact-checked Donald Trump on an issue that she herself didn't fully understand. She confirmed that there is no state in the country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born, as if she were speaking from the Democratic platform. Yet, former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, a Democrat, once described in a radio interview what can happen during a partial birth abortion procedure. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So, where's the lie, Davis? It doesn't take a whistleblower to see that ABC had no intention of being an impartial moderator. David Muir, who leads the most liberal news program on traditional television, he consistently leans left.
I hear from a lot of people, I just want my gas and my groceries to be cheaper. What is your administration's plan to be more specific a little bit on lowering the cost of living and lowering prices?
Producing more oil than we ever have in this country. We are producing more than any other country. We're expanding those options for it, whether it's wind, it's solar and things, getting at this heart of climate change, but at the same time creating jobs for Americans, and gas prices will continue to come down. And I think what I keep saying about this on food prices that we've seen, look, I know this from farm country. Farmers are only getting about $3.90 bushel for corn. $10 for soybeans. Somebody in the middle's taken more than they should on this. 37 states have laws against that. She's talking about making that the case, expanding it. The one thing, though, that she's talking about, and we're seeing happen, and the numbers came out this week, is real wages are finally rising. And one of the reasons is she's making it easier to form a union.
The question wasn't about climate change, Tim. There they go again, not answering the question. It's kind of funny because she said, please be specific. And this guy comes out of left field with the same kind of word salad that you would expect from Kamala Harris. It's no surprise that voters are straight up confused about their policies and their plans when they can't even answer a simple question straight, right? To make matters worse, they change their policy stances as quickly as Kamala comes up with a new accent.
I have to say, it is so good to be back. And let me just say about Joe Biden, I have... Hello to all my Divine Nine brothers and sisters and my sorors. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters.
And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Part of my approach to this is I was a career prosecutor for most of my career. I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have personally looked at autopsies. I have personally seen what assault weapons do to the human body. And so I feel very strongly that it is consistent with the Second Amendment and your right to own a gun to also say we need an assault weapons ban. They're literally tools of war. They were literally designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly.
It's like two different people, right? I feel like we haven't even seen the true Kamala Harris this entire run. Now, what's really amusing is that she always leans on these different accents to try and pander to the black community, which really isn't even all that funny because there are those who find it offensive. It's also a testament to how phony her campaign has been. We've seen it with the buses of supporters, with the softball interviews and setup visits to local stores with dozens of alleged local residents. All that stuff's fake, guys. Don't fall for that crap.
Well, behind me, hundreds of invited Harris supporters are leaving and boarding shuttle buses. This was a departure for Kamala Harris, leaving toss-up states to come to New Hampshire, which according to polls is no longer considered one. But she came with details of an economic plan that has New Hampshire in mind.
Vice President Kamala Harris stormed into the Northampton brewery in front of a cheering crowd of invited supporters, some of whom invited her to help voters get to know her better.
This back and forth between the discourse and stuff is pretty much played out. You want to start to hear more about what she's going to do.
And even with all these news outlets delivering these optics to the American people, it doesn't seem to be working for voters. Post-debate polls show Donald Trump with a very comfortable lead over Kamala Harris. And I believe that this is a wake-up call because Americans are starting to realize the blatant insults being driven at our intellect. And the polls are now making the Harris-Walz campaign sweat bullets as we see Donald Trump just outright destroying her in the elections by November. So JD Vance, he said it would be a national scandal if the whistleblower claim is true that ABC News gave Vice President Kamala Harris a leg up in her debate against Donald Trump earlier this month. But more interesting is how the Ohio senator doubled down on his commitment in this upcoming debate with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, hosted by CBS, even if he thinks it won't be a fair showdown. For the vice presidential candidate, it's a matter of going anywhere and talking to everyone. And according to JD Vance, if that means that there's going to be a slightly biased debate, he doesn't care. That's the price of doing business. But let's be real for a second here, guys. There's no need to rely on that unverified affidavit. Anyone with eyes could see that last week's debate was clearly a partisan attempt to sabotage the public discourse. That was supposed to be a 90-minute exchange between the candidates turned into something else, with ABC moderators jumping into the fray and taking an active role as participants. We saw them issue 6 so-called fact checks against former President Donald Trump while allowing Vice President Kamala Harris to repeat debunked hoaxes, such as the lie that the former president was referring to neo-Nazis when he said that there were fine people on both sides of the Charlottesville controversy. I mean, let's not forget the first instance of a presidential debate fact check that happened 12 years ago when CNN's Candy Crowley intervened in the debate between former Governor Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama. Not only did her actions reveal a clear personal bias, but her attempt to correct the Republican nominee also displayed her profound ignorance of the issue at hand. It was simply her opinion, unsolicited and unhelpful. Now it's like we're seeing Crowley 2.0 with Muir and Davis, because in an ideal scenario, a neutral debate forum would offer fact-checking equally to both candidates, not just one. For instance, ABC News could have challenged Kamala Harris on her Charlottesville claim by pointing out that Donald Trump's transcript made it very clear that he was referring only to those who opposed to tearing down historic statues as fine people. But ABC wasn't exactly impartial, as we saw. Like her CNN predecessor, ABC's Lindsay Davis fact-checked Donald Trump on an issue that she herself didn't fully understand. She confirmed that there is no state in the country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born, as if she were speaking from the Democratic platform. Yet, former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, a Democrat, once described in a radio interview what can happen during a partial birth abortion procedure. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So, where's the lie, Davis? It doesn't take a whistleblower to see that ABC had no intention of being an impartial moderator. David Muir, who leads the most liberal news program on traditional television, he consistently leans left. So yeah, guys, bottom line, if history is any indication, things are turning up for Donald Trump, especially in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at it from the left-leaning news network CNN.
All right, Harry, talk to us about what the states look like, the battleground states.
Yeah, so look, this is about the Electoral College, right? So let's take a look at the average margin. Nationally, Harris is ahead in the average poll by 2.5 points. But look in those 7 key battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Harris is only ahead by 0.3 points, John. So the bottom line is, in those 7 key battleground states, it's a significantly tighter race than it is nationally, John.
So Al Gore and Hillary Clinton are calling right now, Harry, asking what the chances are that Harris could win the popular vote but lose in the Electoral College.
Okay, so basically, you note that 2.5 point lead nationally here, right? Okay, Harris's chances, if she wins the popular vote by 2 to 3 points, the chance she wins the Electoral College is only 53%. The bottom line is, once you have to get all the way north to about 3 to 4 points for Harris to have a clear chance, the clear majority chance of winning the Electoral College. If she only wins by less than 2, look at that, only a 23% chance of winning. Right now, Harris is right now in that danger zone where basically about half the time, given that popular vote margin nationally, she would win. And so here's the situation. Chance Harris wins the popular vote at this point is about 70%, but the chance she wins the Electoral College is only about 50%. So the bottom line is, at this hour, John, there's about a 20% chance that Kamala Harris wins the popular vote, but actually loses in the Electoral College. So we could be heading towards one of these splits that we saw in 2016 and in 2000, whereby one candidate, Kamala Harris, wins in the popular vote, but loses in the Electoral College. Basically, at this hour, we're right in that sort of weird middle zone where we honestly don't know what's going to happen based upon the popular vote. And that is why those national polls that show Kamala Harris ahead, at this point, really don't matter that much.
Now, in case you guys didn't catch that, guys, that was CNN's senior anchor Henry Enton admitting on national television that all those national polls that have Harris up really don't even matter that much. Also, that debate, it didn't even register any meaningful change in the polls. So it looks like we're going to see Hillary Clinton 2.0 happen, because Donald Trump won that ABC debate easy enough, even though they gave Kamala Harris all the questions ahead of time, at least according to many critics online.
So here's the question that should make Trump feel good. Who do you trust who's better on the economy? Trump wins by a substantial amount. Not as much as over Joe Biden, but what Trump's job is to do is to pin the economy, Bidenomics, on the vice president, which should not be tough. So a lot of times you have surrogates who want to be president or want to be senator, and you got to force them to adapt the record of your party. You're actually asking her to take responsibility for her administration.
Right.
So that shouldn't be that hard, unless she's going to say, I'm so glad I'm out from underneath Joe Biden. And let me tell you what I wanted to do as opposed to what's been done.
And that number is from Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. Those are the swing states. And I think that matters. Do you want a candidate that's going to be out there campaigning to make sure that you get taxes? We still have not heard from Kamala Harris on where she stands on the Trump taxes. Actually, we did. The old Kamala Harris says that she's going to get rid of that. So when she goes to Georgia, is she going to tell the business community that she's going to raise their taxes? Or will she campaign like they did the last time and say, your vote is going to be depressed, even though we had a historic election of more turnout at any other time?
Now, I've been reading your comments, guys, and apart from those who say that it will be their third time voting for Donald Trump, I'm actually happy to see that we're also seeing some converts coming into the fold here. Now, last I read, guys, there was a senior who voted Democrat for 74 years, but now they're saying that they're voting for Donald Trump this time around. Anybody else have a similar story? Yeah, I mean, I get it, guys. Vice President Kamala Harris, she was all over the place in that debate. The different focus groups that reacted to her and Donald Trump and so on, too.
How many say she did not meet your expectations? Okay, so she won, but she didn't necessarily meet your expectations. What did she not do? Yeah.
She wasn't very specific when asked certain things. She skirted around certain issues, but she knows how to pull at your heartstrings. She knows how to be dramatic in a way that will touch the heart of Americans while avoiding the hot button questions.
Okay.
Avoiding the tough questions. Pretty much par for the course for the Democratic candidate, if you ask me, guys. And did you notice Donald Trump called Kamala Harris a Marxist communist? But she didn't exactly disagree with him. What's up with that? Meanwhile, Trump supporters are closing ranks and emerging more united after the lopsided ABC debate. Even Gen Z voters showing up for the president in a major way, guys. Check this out.
Young people are going towards him. They know that the economy was way better when he was president. He has a plan to tackle the housing crisis with how bad the prices are. And a lot of young people, especially like people like us, we're looking for a home and we can't afford one. So that's a big issue for people, our generation, Gen Z. And like you said, specifically young men are gravitating more towards the president, doing things like interviews with Jake Paul or Logan Paul or whoever it was, going to UFC events. So I think doing stuff like that really appeals to younger guys like us.
And I mean, Donald Trump's on TikTok, he's reaching out to the younger audiences on there, it makes sense. And I think more people gravitate towards him because they realize under President Trump, the world was almost stable. He didn't start any wars, he's the one that brought foreign relations. And, he kept China in check, he kept Russia in check, he kept North Korea in check, and I think people strive to want that stability back because the last thing we need right now is another world war, a confrontation with China. I think people realize Donald Trump is the peace that we need in this world.
Look, guys, they get it. People are waking up to the truth about Kamala Harris and the Democrats. That's all just a facade.
So that debate was a bunch of BS. I mean, was this a debate between Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris or a debate between Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris versus the moderators? Because the moderators were literally debating Trump and even fact-checking him. They were like, Trump, it says right here, like, that's not correct. We got a piece of paper from a manager that says, like, that's not correct. But they didn't even care to fact check Kamala Harris on the propaganda Project 2025. Yeah, it was very biased. It was so biased. And this is exactly why he has my vote. This is exactly why I'm voting for him. And y'all also noticed how Kamala Harris left her accent outside. Just so fake, disingenuous, phony.
Trump supporters are up in arms right now as ABC News has just exposed itself. Not like they haven't done it before, but this time around, they're actually doing it to our faces. The bias with the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris was astounding. And as you guys heard, the moderators were debating with Trump on television. It was a clear 3v1, although Donald Trump still took it because VP Harris won't debate him on other networks.
I think it's important to remember that we are voting for the leader of our country and not who we like the most or who we want in our wedding party, but who is actually going to make our country better. And we're in an incredibly unique situation where we've had both of the candidates in office before, and we've gotten to see what they would do. And when facts come to facts, my life was better when Trump was in office. The economy was higher, inflation was lower, things were better overall. And now with Kamala's administration, things haven't been so fantastic. And she's saying she can fix the problems that her administration has caused, but I just don't know if I can afford to take that risk.
And this is what the decision of millions will come down to. When was life better? Was it under Trump or was it under Harris? And it's good to see that some voters are being logical about this decision, even though ABC News chose to go down a path of no return. They literally did not even try to hide the fact that they were helping Kamala Harris throughout this entire debate, especially when it came to key issues where the VP had suddenly changed her mind. Now, I'm not sure if she just forgot where her positions were just a few years ago, but funnily enough, even ABC News forgot all about them. So here's David Muir asking her about gun bans back during her first presidential run, and then compare it to what she said in the debate.
In recent days, former Vice President Biden has said about executive orders, some really talented people are seeking the nomination. They said, I'm going to issue an executive order. Biden saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the vice president have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
Yes, we can. This business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
I support buybacks, and it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
And yet David Muir conveniently forgot that Harris said this. All the while, both he and Lindsey Davis were pushing back on what most of Donald Trump was saying. And Megyn Kelly created a compilation of this clear bias.
Let me just show you a little of the fact checking that was done of Donald Trump in short form. Watch.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But here you bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community. There's clarification, and you know this. You and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
no
Republican.
Judge looked at it
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself.
And now I am going to play a quick shot of ABC News fact-checking Kamala. Yeah, that didn't happen.
And I kind of fell for that last part because I waited for her to show at least one time where Harris was fact-checked. But the debate was handed to her on a silver platter. It was absolutely horrifying to see this play out in real time. And for people to say that this was a fair and leveled playing field, it is just insanity. Now, speaking of which, guys, I did a stream recently where I uncovered the truth behind ABC's debate and how one whistleblower has exposed the network for extreme bias. Now, this could cost Kamala Harris the elections, as many say that it counts as election interference. Make sure you guys watch that video next after this one. And as always, appreciate you guys hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one.